Pilots and passengers, welcome to a new series that I'm starting called Dare to Fly TV, or as known as Dare to Fly Twitter View, where I'll be exploring the latest Twitter news and tweets that may be of interest that have made its way into my newsfeed. I'd like to say first that don't forget to subscribe to the channel to help support us and follow us on social media. Leave a comment down below on what your thoughts are on the Twitter news I've discussed, or if there's anything I've missed and that you found of interest. As well, check out Brave Browser to get your power back. Brave Browser is free and protects your privacy and security whilst you browse the web at high speed. You can download Brave Browser down below using the link in the description box. Not only will you get access to a fast and safe browser, but you will help support this channel, which means so much to me. Thank you. Now, let's get into the Twitter news. First up, which is big news, is there was a tweet posted out at 1 AM, for me that is, on the 22nd of July, by Twitter Safety, the official Twitter Safety account, which says, "We've been clear that we will take strong enforcement action on behaviour that has the potential to lead to offline harm. In line with this approach, this week we are taking further action on so-called QAnon activity across the service. We will permanently suspend accounts tweeting about these topics that we know are engaged in violations of our multi-account policy, coordinating abuse around individual victims, or are attempting to evade a previous suspension," something which we've seen more of in recent weeks. They later then said, in addition, they will no longer serve content and accounts associated with QAnon in trends and recommendations, work to ensure we're not highlighting this activity in search and conversations, block URLs associated with QAnon from being shared on Twitter. This is getting rolled out this week. They're continuing to review this activity across the service, updating their rules. They're scaling to protect the public conversation in the face of evolving threats. This is quite a big thing because obviously the Q community on Twitter is growing in numbers. It's becoming a big movement. It's been noticed by the mainstream media, particularly, obviously associated by some with Pizzagate and other so-called conspiracy theories. This hasn't been received very well, as you'd imagine. The comments on this post saying what you've been is hypocritical. Where do you stand on Antifa, for example? One Twitter user responded in reply to this, at Bikram Yoga Laval, said, "This is okay, right?" with a screenshot of a variety of pictures of tweets which have been said by James Gunn. And of course, James Gunn was surrounded in controversy with his tweets surrounding what seemed to be paedophilia. Tweets in this screenshot include that this hotel shower is the weakest ever, felt like a 3-year-old was peeing on my head. Some of these things I really don't want to read out because they are quite disturbing and odd for someone of that age to be posting and someone with that authority. As a result, there's been reports from different news outlets, particularly I'm looking at the BBC here, has done an article saying QAnon Twitter bans accounts linked to conspiracy theory. Twitter has announced sweeping measures aimed at cracking down on the QAnon conspiracy theory, including banning thousands of accounts. The suspensions are expected to affect about 150,000 accounts worldwide, and more than 7,000 accounts have been removed in recent weeks for violations. There are some who are not tied to Q who are saying that it's strange that Twitter has taken this stance. For example, Michael Malice here in a tweet says, "I can't think of any violence that has been linked to QAnon, especially as compared to Antifa." Robbie Starbuck says, "Twitter openly allows Antifa, Louis Farrakhan, Iranian terror groups, paedophiles, anti-Semites, death threats to the president, leftists coordinating riots, statue toppling and looting, whereas people who tweet QAnon are not allowed." I know that a lot of people have dividing thoughts on Q and the existence of Q. I think it's a fair point to make though regarding freedom of speech and censorship, what can and can't be posted. A lot of those involved in QAnon are heading over to Parler now and other social media sites and just trying to stay connected because it's seen as a threat now to be tweeting about anything to do with Q, and not sure how much longer some of these accounts are going to be staying up. However, there's been some suggestion that this has to do with Chrissy Teigen and the recent revelations that she was believed to be on Epstein's flight logs. This resulted in her going private, privating her Twitter account. In recent days, she has unprivated her account again. On the 14th of July, she did a tweet saying, "When Pedo Ghislaine sings like a canary, if she doesn't die, and we have nothing to do with this, I know for a fact it won't go away. They'll just think of another excuse. It is extremely disheartening. I don't know how to stop this. I don't think anyone quite gets it." This is in reply to previous tweets she had made years ago, similar to James Gunn actually, which was seen as being quite paedophilic in nature. She has obviously protested that her involvement with this, but it is believed that she is maybe involved in the push towards Twitter censoring QAnon. Whilst it can't really be proven, some would argue that she is a big account on Twitter, therefore has a lot of power, could push and put pressure on Twitter to ensure that the Q community cannot keep posting and particularly putting pressure on her regarding whether she was on the Epstein flight logs and explaining why she has tweeted some of the things that she did. Following what's going on with Q, there was a tweet by Kevin Shipp, the former CIA counterterrorism, counterintelligence and staff investigator. He was involved with Out of Shadows. He did a tweet on the 21st of July saying, "The Great Awakening is real and inspiring to many. I fully support it. QAnons must continue their exposés and strengthen the movement. I must caution them of this. Q, which started as a legitimate insider, has been taken over on 8kun. It is now a psyop." This needs to be investigated for those in the QAnon community. Whether this is a psyop or not, there's a lot of big accounts on Twitter suggesting disinformation and sort of pushing Anons in the wrong direction. I would push those wondering about the existence in the direction of General Flynn's video where he took the oath, which to many was big proof of the existence of Q.
I, Jack Flynn,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support and defend
the
Constitution of the United States
Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation
without any mental
or
reservation
purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office on which I am about to enter.
of the office of which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Where we go one, we go all.
Where we go one, we go all.
God bless America.
God bless America.
There are big accounts, particularly on Twitter, who are leading some of those in the Q community astray. Hard to tell which accounts these could be. It's interesting, we'll have to see how this one develops. Moving on with Kanye West, obviously had a slight meltdown over Twitter. He put out some tweets, they've all been deleted. Screenshots have been taken of the tweets he made at the time. These screenshots have been posted by an account at Clanton_Amber, who was able to screenshot the tweets, one of which particularly involves, "Everybody knows the movie Get Out is about me. Kim was trying to fly to Wyoming with a doctor to lock me up like on the movie Get Out because I cried about saving my daughter's life yesterday."
My mom saved my life. My dad wanted to abort me. My mom saved my life. There would have been no Kanye West because my dad was too busy.
There's an interesting video highlighted and was trending for a while. It was what Dave Chappelle said quite a few years ago. He was saying about how Hollywood are sick and that those who end up in the Hollywood industry live quite a sick life, or are sort of shaped into a suffering, really, because it is a sick industry. It's no wonder why Kanye has snapped the way he did and is portrayed as crazy. And I think it is a very relevant tweet, so I'll show you that now.
When Martin Lawrence was in that chair, we talked about Blue Streak.
I love that dude.
He played a role in your life, I believe. How do you feel about him as a person, as an artist?
Martin Lawrence is the guy that showed everybody you can make it from D.C. to Hollywood. And I had a personal stake in his success. Every time he did something, it made me feel inspired and really good. And he was always real nice to me. He'd sit me down, "What's going on with you, baby boy? What? We'd talk about comedy, whatever." And, you know, when we did Blue Streak, we were promoting it, and Martin had a stroke. He almost died. And then after that, I saw him, and I was like, "Oh, my God, Martin, are you okay?" And he said, "I got the best sleep I ever got in my life." That's how tough he is. So let me ask you this. What is happening in Hollywood that a guy that tough will be on the street waving a gun, screaming, "They are trying to kill me"?
Yeah.
What's going on? Why is Dave Chappelle going to Africa? Why does Mariah Carey make a $100 million deal and take her clothes off on TRL? A weak person cannot get to sit here and talk to you. Ain't no weak people talking to you. So what is happening in Hollywood? Nobody knows. The worst thing to call somebody is crazy, is dismissive. I don't understand this person, so they're crazy. That's bullshit. These people are not crazy. They're strong people. Maybe the environment is a little sick.
And there you have it. That's a fair point to make, and it's interesting considering the revelations of looking at Harvey Weinstein, what's going on with Jeffrey Epstein as well. These groups and these individuals all involved in these industries, which turn out to be quite sick and very negative environments. And you have to wonder what Kanye has been through, what he's witnessed through his journey in the industry, for him to have this reaction and to tweet these things. Maybe he's seen things that he wish he could speak about, but he can't. It all needs to be taken into consideration. The next tweet I have is by Awake AF. Their art is Coraline Elise. It's a link to an article on the Daily Wire. This article reads, George Stephanopoulos' wife said, "I watch porn with my teenage daughters." The article goes on about Ali Wentworth, the wife of ABC's Good Morning host George Stephanopoulos, who she said she is perfectly willing to teach her teenage daughters about sex by watching porn with them. Her daughters are 15 and 17, and she told the Dissenters podcast that porn would be educational for them, so she could explain that porn is performative rather than realistic. And she said, "In porn, women have been conditioned to look and act a certain way. They are performing, and it's dangerous to have boys see this as something women want. You can't stop them, so I'd watch it with them. I would look at the porn with them that one time like they're performing." Personally, I don't think it's appropriate that she is sitting down with them to watch porn. Of course, there's many different ways of parenting, but this is just inappropriate. I don't know why anyone would think the best way to teach children about sex is to watch porn with them. I understand porn is not at all representative of what sex is like in real life. I agree it's performative, it's not real. Some have suggested in the comments looking at this tweet is that it's desensitizing people slowly to paedophilia. And moving on, we have a tweet by Patriotic Trumptress, which her at is at Rubble30, regarding the Nexium cult leader Keith Raniere. The link goes to a Daily Mail article regarding Keith Raniere's bid for a new trial, and it has been denied after he claims witnesses lied on the stand. If you don't know, last year in June, Raniere was convicted on all counts of sex trafficking and coercing women in sex. He's tried to say that 2 of the witnesses had lied. The court also involved Smallville actress Alison Mack, if you're aware of that, charged with racketeering, being accused of helping Raniere recruit young girls into this court and other women. Regarding Keith Raniere's bid for the new trial, it was ruled that he can't get a new trial because he was unable to prove that the testimony of the witnesses on the stand he accused of lying, he was unable to prove that that was false. And the prosecutors had already said that he had blackmailed victims, he had forced them into becoming sex slaves and submitting to him. They were branded, but Keith Raniere is pushing to get the second trial, try and wiggle his way out of it. And finally, there's an article here that was tweeted by Eyes on Q at Eyes on Q2 regarding a sex cult that was led by a 77-year-old man who is known as the Doctor, who tortured and sexually abused female slaves, including young girls, for 30 years. It was uncovered in Italy. Now this goes and directs to a Daily Mail online. The article says that police have uncovered an alleged sex cult in northern Italy whose female followers were brainwashed and abused by a 77-year-old man known as the Doctor. Officers have carried out raids on Sunday against the group, based in the town of Novara, near Milan, on suspicion of slavery and sexual abuse, including of young girls. The police had said that the cult leader used a series of businesses, including dance schools, herbalists, craft shops, and a publishing house, to lure in vulnerable and often wealthy women who he would then indoctrinate. Part of the indoctrination included being subjected to unbearable violence and abuse of all kinds. Officers say that the group was structured like a pyramid, with a cabal of the most loyal followers closest to the Doctor, with those who expressed skepticism in his beliefs towards the bottom. In the cult, they referred to each other as beasts. They could not know the leader's official name, and if they spoke of his real name, that was not allowed. Those who were most loyal to the godlike figure were psychologists who helped identify other women to indoctrinate. And in the cult, the women had to cut all ties with their family, or even try to persuade their relatives to join, work for the group, and they were put into different roles. For example, some of the women were given houses. This meant that they had to depend entirely on the cult and stay living in the cult for survival, as they've already cut all ties off with their family, then they have nowhere to go, which is scary, terrifying. It comes across a bit like Jonestown in the sense they all moved away and they all lived in a community and were relying on that community as they cut all ties with their family. So his belief system, the Doctor, was based around a Celtic-style mysticism, which included magical practices and fairy places. The women were forced to submit to sexual abuse and torture, to light their inner fire and grant them access to a magical, fantastic and secret world. Video released by police from one of the dance schools showed a group of topless women in short skirts dancing in a garden in a ritual. They had tests of faith, you had to pay lots of membership fees and finances. This was starting around 30 years ago, so this has been going on for a very, very long time. And they were still active when raids were being carried out. No arrests made yet. It's not clear how many people are involved, what role they've been playing. It's also unclear how much money the cult and the group has made through donations and membership fees from these women who are drawn into it. You have to wonder how this was allowed to go on for 30 years and how they got away with carrying out this abuse for 30 years. Following on, if we look at a Mirror article covering the same cult. In the Mirror article, an alleged victim told the police he decides everything, this is being the Doctor, who you can attend, where you can work. He chooses which girls should entertain him if you can or cannot go to our fairy places. Comments on the tweet itself. We have one here from Bluejar for how the police say the leader of the cult used different businesses, herbalists, suggesting it sounds very reminiscent of NXIVM, that it may even be a branch of NXIVM. Obviously cannot be proven, this case is being just investigated and reported upon. You have to be careful with where you go with things, not to get too carried away. These groups and these unfortunate cases of cults and the existence of them could be a single case of a cult. Whether or not it's related to NXIVM, it can't be proven. Or if it is, It's not been proven yet, but I would be wary of that, not to get too carried away and jump to the conclusion that it is Nexium. Well, this has been the first episode of the Dare to Fly Twitter View series. It's the first one, so obviously it's a bit shaky, it's a bit of a first go at things. I've never done a video like this before, but it's been interesting to look into what's going on Twitter, what's going on online, and finding new stories to report upon and showcase. I think it's important to see what others are researching and finding. Twitter is a bit of a dangerous area for some people. If you're involved in the Q community, you will definitely be feeling that right now. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give me some feedback on what you thought. I'm hoping to do this more regularly. It's a great way to look at different sources of information and see what other people are tweeting. If you'd like to support the channel, please subscribe to Dare to Fly today, to transition to pilot and get ready to take flight. You can also follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter at DareToFly777. You can also find me now on Parler under the same name at DareToFly777. I also now have an Instagram account which is at dare.tofly777. On that note, fly high, fear less, and I'll catch you in the next video.